Hey, hello, my friends. Here we are. It is Chat with Matt. It's episode 8, I believe. It is the 20th of February here in New Zealand, 2019. We are about 5 hours post the February full moon. Hello, Deb. How are you? Hello, Sister Sylvie's also here, quick off the mark. And Patricia from just over the mountains from me. Hello. So it's Chat with Matt. We've got 30 minutes or thereabouts. I blew it right out of the water last week. Hey, Lena. We will see how we go this week. I am intending to bring it in on 30 minutes or within 10% of that. 10% gives me 3 minutes margin, which is fair enough. But we shall see. We're here to answer questions. We're here to discuss whatever you feel to. It doesn't have to be a question. It could be a request. If there's a difference between the two, I guess there is. I am just going to scroll down here, and I know there's a few things here. Sister Deb wrote in just a few moments ago, feeling overwhelmed with day-to-day life. Last few days, very exhausted. When does it end? Well, hey, Sister Meg, how are you? Well, Deb, you do have an excuse over the last few days. It's been quite an intense build-up to the full moon that happened just 5 hours or so ago. So, not saying that the intensity is going to end. I don't think that's. I don't think my personal opinion is the energy is not going to back off significantly from where it is now as we progress forward. But what I do feel is that most of us are going to get better equipped or more resilient to handling the higher levels of energy, and thus the intensity that we're feeling currently will not be so disturbing. Hello, Mary Sykes. Welcome. So it's not about when does the overwhelming energy. It's not when does the intense energy end. It's when do you choose not to be overwhelmed with it. I spoke, I don't think it was last week, but potentially the week before, about overwhelm, I think, here on Chat with Matt. The problem is, for those of you who don't know, I also do these live streams in my private group, in the paid subscription group, so I get confused very easily about what I've spoken to in what live stream, because for me it blends very much, and I'm lucky to remember anything that I say in a live stream, to be perfectly honest. But I do know I was speaking about overwhelm not so long ago to some people on a live stream, I believe, or perhaps it was a live call, and the point is not to make overwhelm wrong. Hey, Sister Emily is also with us. Not to make overwhelm wrong. I'll read that in a moment about your dog. I'm going to read the thing about the dog right now, obviously, because I'm reading it. I know my dog is not... This is from Deb, by the way, who's just asking about overwhelm as well. I know my dog is not able to eat solids, so that's been a project to mix wet food with water. Feeding by syringe, I feel overwhelmed with my day-to-day tasks. Yeah, so just a quick note on overwhelm. It's not a wrongness. I know we're being presented with, this is overwhelm. We're being presented with the opportunity to function at a greater rate than what we have before. At first, that feels quote unquote overwhelming, but it is actually our progress into being more effective, more efficient, more productive. And it's not necessarily a test that we feel that we need to keep running on this treadmill, but overall we're becoming more and more aligned with our higher selves, and our higher selves are awesome. So we have potential to function at a much higher rate in human form here. And what the problem is that we cling to our history. And so historically we've only been able to do a certain amount in a day, right? And historically we function in certain ways, very mentally, how we function. We've ordered things, and we mentally understand and project forward and do all of that stuff to be effective and efficient in the world, as we have been in the past. Now we're being invited into our heart. Our minds are sort of getting a little bit frazzled, a bit loose, a bit unhinged. I'll use that word because it's kind of what word came, because we're moving into a more effective operating system. Operating from our heart is actually more effective. Now, our mind doesn't think it is. Our mind thinks we're completely losing our ability to function, but that's just because the mind was quite attached to being the powerful one. It's not that our mind's going to cease to exist. It's not that we're going to stop thinking about things altogether. It's just the balance of power is shifting, and we're allowing ourselves to intuitively move through stuff. So we're willing to take actions that we don't understand how the outcomes are going to occur. That is much more efficient, because to understand things requires a lot of research and a lot of inquiry and a lot of analysis that when you function intuitively, you don't need to do. But if you can trust your intuition and you have a good relationship with your intuitive guidance, then you start having really good outcomes in a very easy way, because you just an opportunity arises, you just take it. You don't need to think about it all. Now, as we're going through this process of change, it seems very overwhelming to our mental self, because we're now being presented with more opportunities to do things and to have outcomes than we feel or think that we think we're capable of managing. We don't think we're up to the task, and therefore we get overwhelmed. We trigger the stress response, right? This is overwhelm. We trigger the stress response because we don't think we can cope with the amount of opportunity we have in front of us right now. And of course, some of that opportunity looks like burden and responsibility, but ultimately, if you can do those tasks that might be labeled as burden and responsibility, but you do them easily, then they actually become a joy, right? Because you just achieve things that have good outcomes for you. Feeding your dog with a syringe has a good outcome for you. It seems like a burden, and it seems like a test, and it seems like even a punishment, right? But you're doing it from love for your dog, right? Otherwise you wouldn't be doing it. So to do it also has a level of joy if you can overcome the mental projection that this is overwhelming, that you're putting on top of it, right? I know, and you've been through your own discordance. I know that, Deb. I felt like I just got over the last 2 weeks. When I feel like I got over the recent shifts, then here I go again, especially during the day, whilst my nighttime energy is much better. Great that your nighttime energy is much better. But that's it, right? And so it seems overwhelming that we're moving on this path of ascension so quickly that it just seems like we got over our last hurdle or challenge or energetic shift. I'm just going to bring myself down a little. Whoop, that's probably more than I anticipated. But anyway, so it just seems like we got over the last shift, and then the next one is upon us, and mentally we think we deserve a break. Mentally we think we want to have a rest now and integrate and assimilate, but do we really need that rest? I know we think we do, and historically we've needed that rest, but do we need that rest truly moving forward, or are we so excited about what we're stepping into that we can just keep going? And if we let go of our history as wanting to influence the should, and really allow ourselves to be in the moment and just going with the energy of now, then we can progress with this without suffering through it. And still, it's not about getting on the treadmill and just running. It intuitively guided in the moment. But the point is to get out of mentally projecting that this is overwhelming, or this is too much, or I'm not coping, just because your mind is having a bit of a meltdown. I know it's hard. I'm going through stuff too. Don't worry. I'm going through stuff too. In the lead up to leaving for Mexico, parents arriving, all sorts of stuff going on here. Trying to finish this sleep package, which I have surrendered right now. That it's probably not going to be finished before I leave, and so therefore it won't be finished before I get back, because I don't think it's going to happen while I'm away. But the point is to trust. We can only do what we can do, and to get stressed about trying to do more than what we're capable of doing really doesn't help us do anything any better. It really limits, right? When I get stressed about worrying about getting my sleep package done, I don't actually work well on the sleep package or anything else that I want to get complete. Much better to relax and to intuitively feel what is the most appropriate action to take right now, and then just be willing to do it without thinking about all the other things I think I need to be doing, right? Because it doesn't help me do what I've chosen to do, and it doesn't actually help any of those other things get done either. It just slows the whole process down when we allow mental projections to create stress, anxiety, contraction, it just locks our energy up. We function much better, we flow much better when we relax into choosing to know that everything that's presenting is presenting for a reason. Nothing is going wrong. And we just get to set our priorities in the moment and trust what we choose to do and do it. And if we feel that we need to change halfway, then be willing to do that as well. Don't get locked into, I need to complete this because I've started it. Sometimes that's not effective either. So I hope that helps. And just breathe and be willing to breathe deep and be willing to breathe often and be willing to breathe intentionally. What do I mean by intentionally? Breathe in what serves you, breathe out what doesn't. Breathe with the intention that you are nurturing and supporting yourself in each moment of now, right? Because a lot of the time we forget and we just allow our breath to get very short and shallow, and we're not actually nurturing ourselves with our breath, and we're not actually nurturing ourselves with the energy that we have available to us. Awesome. Hello, Sister Robin. So here's another question from Sister... Whoop, I guess my computer's putting a screensaver on. Sister Sylvie, my sense of... I'm going to try and say this. Say it. My sense of feeling full after I've eaten, because I can't say that word. I know it's a real word. Satiety. That's satiety. Yeah, I can't say it. There you go. That's me. Is disturbed by some medication that I take, which leads me to take in more food than what my body truly needs. But if I don't really feel, but if I don't feel really hungry. I'm not quite sure about that, but anyway, I know what you're talking about. I don't know I know, God, Matthew, what would it take for me to read? I know you are able to, and so you wonder how I function during the day, right? As getting all the emails I get, you know what I do quite often? I highlight it and hit the buttons on my computer and it reads it for me. And I also use speech to text when I'm responding quite often. That's how I manage to use technology to help me function with my dyslexia. Because otherwise I stumble and stagger like this. And quite often I scan things and I get the sense of it without actually reading every word. But I'm trying to read it out now to you guys, and I'm showing myself for how my ability to read really is. Anyway, but I know you are able to fast, so can you give me some trick about dealing with hunger and dealing with the, in my case, false impression of being empty? Well, to start with, sister, there is definitely a difference between being hungry and empty. And for me, and I do fast, not as regularly as I perhaps might like to, and it's definitely not, I don't fast as much as I once did in earlier phases of this lifetime. But differentiating the difference between hunger and emptiness is also very, very beneficial, because just because we're empty doesn't mean we need to eat. And I currently tend to run on the regime of eating over a 6, 7 or 8 hour period of the day and then not eating for at least 16 hours or so of my day. Perhaps it's only 18 hours. I'm not as strict with it as perhaps I might be, but it doesn't really matter. The potential is I know that I feel energetically much better when I give my body periods of emptiness, right? Over 16 hours, you can allow your body to empty out. I don't usually take solid food before 11 a.m. any day. I've just had, at just before 10 a.m. when we started this, I just had my celery juice, and then I'll have another juice about half an hour before I eat, and then I will eat my breakfast, which is basically fruit salad with seeds and nuts. And then I will eat about 4 hours later a salad, and then about 4 hours after that, or 2, 3 hours after that, I will eat something cooked, generally. Some vegetables, stir fry, quite often rice or something, not quite often, but something like that. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, rampantly dyslexic. I like that. Hey, Sister Melita, how are you? So anyway, the point is, and you don't need to follow that regime. That's not a rightness. That suits my body and it suits my temperament, and it makes me feel really energetically. And some people are not capable of intermittently fasting or taking regular short fast, whether that be a 24-hour fast or a 36-hour fast or a 72-hour fast. After 72 hours, it's kind of no longer a short fast, it's a long fast. But anyway, hey, Melita. But some tricks. You've asked for basically some tricks to help you overcome the tendency to eat when you're not actually hungry and to overeat because the medication is influencing your ability to feel that you've eaten enough. And the trick is, I guess, Sylvie, is to understand what is driving your desire to eat. What is driving your desire to eat? For all of us, this is a really good question. What's driving our desire to eat? Because quite often it is not the physical body requiring calories. Quite often what influences our desire to eat is either a belief that it's time to eat, e.g., oh, look, it's 12 o'clock, it's time to eat. A belief that if we don't eat, we won't have energy, which I can assure you is false. And the only way you'll really know that is when you do become available, or any of you do choose to fast for any length of time, you will realize that while there will be periods of low energy while you're fasting, that is while you are detoxing and your body is full of the heaviness of the toxins that have come out of the tissues of your body, because you now can allow the energy to be utilized in a detoxification way, which does leave you feeling a little off, right? Because there is toxin in your bloodstream as it's being eliminated from your body, but it's a good thing ultimately. But also while you fast, when you're not in that period of detoxification, you will find that, like you can get to day 4 or 5 of a fast, after the first wave of detoxification, where you have an immense amount of energy and clarity and motivation, and you haven't taken any calories for like 4 or 5 days, which, reminds you or enlightens you to the fact that our bodies do not need constant input of food to keep functioning. We do not. Especially if you're doing spiritual practices, deep breathing, meditations, to help you connect with the spiritual energy that's available to us all. So, the other reason that we tend to want to eat, and I feel this quite regularly, especially running sessions and doing things that are spiritually uplifting beyond what my mentality is comfortable with, is the emotional desire to ground ourselves, or the emotional desire to not just ground ourselves, but to numb ourselves. Sometimes when we're feeling vibrations arise that are uncomfortable, we eat to mask that, because we tend to feel emotional when we're empty. We tend to have a greater connection. One of the things when you're fasting is you get much more sensitive to what's going on around you. You get much more sensitive to energy, which includes your own emotional state, which can be very uncomfortable. It can be one of the reasons why people can't fast. People say, I can't fast because I get too upset. And it's not that they're any more upset, it's just that they're more sensitive. And they go into what we're talking with Deb earlier on. They feel overwhelmed with their own what's the right word here? Awareness of their emotional states, their energy states, and the energies of people around them can become painful to them because they are more sensitive in a fasting state. So we eat to dull the pain, right? We eat to dull the pain, and I eat sometimes to ground myself because I'm feeling too, quote unquote, too uncomfortably expansive for my egoic self. My egoic self feels like I am more expanded than I can cope with. Quite often when I come out of running, if I've run a couple of sessions, or like last night I came home from doing a in-person thing down at the yoga center, which I do the Tuesday before every full moon down at the yoga center here, a dozen people come in and lie on the floor, and I channel light language for like 45 minutes to an hour, working with people on the floor. It's incredibly uplifting for me. I come home and I am also incredibly hungry, it's not that I've used a bunch of calories, although I have used quite a lot of calories. It's mainly that egoically I want to ground back down because I'm buzzing and it's a little uncomfortable. Uncomfortable in the fact that it's unusual for me to be that high, and my egoic self wants to feel normal, like what it historically feels like throughout the majority of the day. It's not enjoying the fact, my egoic self is not enjoying the fact that I'm so expansive. It's a little uncomfortable, it's a little unusual, it's quote unquote weird. So we want to eat, right? And so understanding what, and so there could be other reasons too. These are just reasons that are popping into my head as to why I eat and why other people eat quite often, right? What's driving you to want to eat? And it might be something different for you, Sylvie, or anyone else, right? You might have different drivers behind why you're eating, but to become aware of why you are eating or why you have a desire to eat is important, because once you are aware that what is driving your choice to eat, you now can make a conscious choice as to whether you satisfy that desire or not, whether it's going to benefit you to satisfy that desire. So now you come to the point where you require discipline. I know that is a dirty word for many people, discipline, but it doesn't need to be. You could think of discipline rather than a mental fear-based thing as a loving heart-based thing. We choose to act in a certain way because we love ourselves. We're having the discipline to employ what we know is loving, rather than to allow our emotional self or our mental self override what we know is the loving thing to do with what is the fear-based thing to do. Oh, it's 12 o'clock and I haven't eaten yet. I must eat. I should eat. My mum said I should eat, right? Society's telling me it's appropriate that I eat. I should have a big breakfast. I should do this and I should do that, right? Shoulds that are not necessarily your truth are indoctrinated into us, and we tend to run in them from a fear basis. That we'll be wrong if we don't do that, if we don't comply with what society's telling us to do. Or it's emotional, right? And that is also a form of fear that we are dulling ourselves down to cope with what we are feeling emotionally. Now, there's a balance to be had here, because sometimes it is appropriate that we dull our emotional states back. Sometimes it is appropriate that we ground ourselves down. But then it comes down to the awareness of what would be the best thing to eat now and how much should I eat right now, and choosing to maintain that discipline. Right, because it's very easy to not, right? So you get the awareness of what you should eat and how much, and then can you stick to that? Which, I remember talking to you and you said, you put a certain amount on a plate, and then and you have to, right, eat just what's on the plate without allowing yourself to go back, because if you do allow yourself, you're likely to overeat. What is a physical sensation of being like a whole? Okay. So what's behind that physical sensation? What energy is behind it? Because all of our physical sensations are coming from an energy. And the physical sensation of being like a whole, why do you feel the whole needs to be filled in? Because wholes, right, in existence out there have their place. Right, we don't want to live in a society with no holes. Holes are opportunities. Holes are, the foundations. The foundations grow out of holes. So if we just keep going around filling in all of our holes, we're limiting our ability to grow. I saw something from Sister M. I don't want to eat often. I've no experience with fasting. I found coconut water and miso soup are helpful. Yeah, so Emily's pretty much got the opposite. It actually takes discipline for Emily to nourish herself, because spiritually, energetically, food doesn't feel great in her body. So, and it's just a matter of working with why. For Sister Emily, there's no doubt some reasons why food doesn't feel so easy for her to consume, and perhaps it would help her to work with that. Perhaps, I'm not saying definitely, I'm not saying Emily's wrong for not eating much. I was still a little bit concerned about my kids. They don't seem to eat nearly as much as I ate when I was a teenage boy of the same age. But they seem to be healthy enough, and they seem to have enough energy, and they seem to be functioning well, yet they don't seem to be taking in nearly the same calorific intake as I did when I was their age. So that's interesting and quote-unquote concerning, because we expect things to be the same. I'm just looking at the time. We've only got 3 or 4 minutes left. Due to allergies, can't eat your yummy food you listed, Matt, but slowly adding them into my foods. And I'll just keep reading. Okay, I didn't get the last bit. FPPD. Yeah, it doesn't matter. But the point is, Robin, yummy is definitely a connotation, a perception, and for some people would have listed what I listed off, and I can't even remember what I was saying, salads and fruit salads and seeds and stuff. Well, they would have gone, oh my God, that sounds terrible. It's a perception. But I know for people with allergies, and I've gone through similar things myself where, certain things have been, I've been off them for whatever reason, choosing not to. The grass is always greener on the other side, and forbidden fruit always has an appeal. Mentally and emotionally, if we're not supposed to eat something, it always seems like it would be yummy to eat, and we crave it. We are funny beings. If something we're not supposed to do, then we want to do it. It's just human. So choose to remember that when you're grieving or frustrated at the fact that you are quote unquote not supposed to eat that yummy food, and really allow yourself to find the yumminess in what serves your body to eat. Salads used to be your favorite food, Robin. Okay? Because now they're not serving your body, at least for the time being. So choose not to make a favorite something that you can't have, right? So, but it's fine to say salads used to be my favorite food, and now you can have a favorite food now that's on the list of things that you can eat, and trust that things will change and that you don't need to stay on your restrictive diet. But what's going to help things to change is to find acceptance for the situation that you're currently experiencing, right? Is not to make it wrong that you can't eat what used to be your favorite food and therefore feel frustrated, because that level of resistance is going to create an energetic contraction around the very outcome that you're desiring to have, which is to release the sensitivity to certain parts of the salad food or the whatever you're, if you're trying to get off the lip of whatever they're called, the lip somethings or whatever it is. And for Patricia goes, I wish I liked salads. And that's exactly. I remember early on with Marie, my wife, right, when my diet has always been quite salady and raw and fresh, and she prefers, because she's much more earthy, cooked food and rich food and oil. I don't want to make it sound bad, but denser foods, right? And they're not wrong for you at all, but it's not really my cup of tea, and it suits her body better. And she used to look at what I eat, and she used to think that it was, that I was depriving myself. She used to say, why are you just depriving yourself of this good food? Having to explain that I'm not actually depriving myself, and when I basically eat the food that you like eating so that we can eat together, then I'm actually depriving myself of what my body wants. That is actually deprivation, eating the richer food. But for someone who likes rich food, to look at lean food, they think it's a deprivation. It's just perception. The point is, it's just perception, and perceptions are malleable. So the point is, Robin, and all of us, Patricia, is not to allow ourselves to maintain perceptions that are influencing our ability to be happy. Because if you have a perception that you're missing out on the food that you really want to eat, then it's not going to allow you to really get the nourishment out of the food that you are eating. Right? So allow yourself to be very appreciative that you're eating food that is nourishing your body as it is right now, and relax into that without losing it to, I wish I was eating something else, putting your happiness in a food that you're not supposed to eat, whether that's supposed to is someone else enforcing you, or whether that's supposed to is you actually aware that the food that you used to find tasty is not serving your body. That might be hot dogs for someone, right? And for me, that's not even a food. But for some people, they love the taste of hot dog. It's very addictive, right? And if you're eating a lot of hot dogs, that white bread and that carcinogenic thing that they call meat inside it, sorry, I shouldn't project my shit onto it. But the point is, and you might become aware that it's not really serving you, but you still crave it. You still crave it on a level. So it's important that you work with your perceptions around those cravings, and understand that sometimes we get addicted to things that don't serve us. Why is Patricia saying good on you, Deb? Okay. I'm so over all food programs. I just eat what I want, and if I don't want certain food, that's okay. Exactly. So if you trust... The point is, though, is to know what aspect of you is wanting. That's it. Because if we can eat from what we intuitively feel guided to eat, if we can eat what our soul desires, if we can eat what our body truly desires beyond any chemical addictions, then we're home and hose, right? Our diet will naturally keep evolving into what is serving us, and it won't be fixed. I know my diet changes depending on... Yeah, perfect, Robin. Perfect. So it's still good organic food. It's just a little denser than what you are used to, and you will no doubt keep evolving with it. I believe as we relax into appreciation of what is actually serving us, then everything can keep evolving much more quickly, and you might be surprised. Interesting, Deb, that you're finding yourself drawn more to denser foods too. And so I have also, as I explained earlier on, when I'm feeling very high and high energy, what I go looking for is the denser food. So I'll go looking for, for me, denser food is stuff like hummus and paleo bread and stuff like that too, because it grounds me back down. So, relax, what's that? Oh God, don't start me there, Robin. That's a whole hour talk and I've run out of time, I'm sure. But I just wish to wind this up about food. Hopefully I got to answer your question, Sylvie, which was, the tip is to become aware of what is driving your desire to eat, which you are, this hole in yourself, this sense, this physical sensation, and then becoming aware of what serves me. What really serves me right now, and be willing to do what serves you, rather than be manipulated by your senses. Emotional, physical, or mental desires are not necessarily your highest truth. Work with them, not with frustration, but with love. And be willing to compromise. So yeah, for people like Deb, who you don't eat so much, but when I know, Deb, your vibration is very high a lot of the time, and it's this desire to eat a little bit of denser food is to make yourself comfortable rather than to get the nourishment generally, which is okay. It's not that we're supposed to stay high all the time. It's appropriate that we bring ourselves back into our body, but just being aware of why we're doing it sometimes helps us do it in a way that is much more beneficial. Okay, my friends, Chat with Matt's expired. Hopefully we delivered some content there that might serve you in some way, mainly talking about food. I can't remember what we started talking about. Overwhelm at the start, that's right. Just had a quick look back. So overwhelm and food, they go together, right? Because quite often we eat when we are overwhelmed to help ourselves ground in and numb ourselves. But anyway, I am not exactly sure about Chat with Matt next week. This time next week, I will be on a plane flying to Auckland, the first leg of getting to Mexico. So I may do Chat with Matt earlier or like a day earlier, which sounds like the most sensible thing to do. I'll have a look on my calendar. Anyway, and for the next 3 weeks, it's going to be a little bit sporadic. I'm not sure. The week after, probably I'm going to be in the middle of delivering a retreat. I don't think Chat with Matt will happen. I'm not sure how good the internet connection is where we're delivering the retreat from anyway. And after that, we'll see. So my apologies. Chat with Matt, I'm intending it to be pretty much a regular thing. But when I'm overseas, that can get a little bit difficult to organise. So just please be willing to listen out for when it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. And if you miss it, it'll be there in replay anyway. And if it doesn't happen, please don't crucify me. I will make it up to you when I get back or when I do get to do one, which might be some other time. Anyway, my friends, much love to you all. If you want to come to Mexico, believe it or not, I will still fit you in. So reach out real quick and we'll sort you out, right? The retreat is starting in about 10 days. Much love to you all. Holding space for you all to keep expanding and keep working with the energies that are available to us and to keep stepping into your happiness, right? To keep stepping into your happiness. Keep choosing it for yourself. Much love to you all, my friends. Much love. Bye for now. Bye-bye.